If you're a man over 60, listen closely. Because the next time you reheat leftovers, you might be doing something far worse than just losing nutrients. You could be slowly damaging your heart, dulling your memory, and even weakening your erections. And it's all happening without you even realizing it. I'm Dr. Mohit Kara, Professor of Urology and Men's Health at Baylor College of Medicine. For over 3 decades, I've helped men rebuild their strength, restore intimacy, and reclaim their health naturally, often by making small, overlooked changes in daily routines. And one of the most dangerous habits I see in older men: reheating the wrong types of food. It may seem harmless, even convenient, but science now shows certain reheated foods like mushrooms, eggs, or white potatoes can quietly disrupt your hormones, inflame your arteries, and rob you of energy, stamina, and circulation. Yet, at the same time, other foods like oatmeal, soup, and brown rice actually become more healing when warmed properly. In this video, I'll reveal the 3 foods you must never reheat again, and the 3 that can powerfully support your heart, brain, and manhood when you do. And if you stay with me until the end, I'll expose one everyday food most men reheat without thinking. One that may be silently working against your prostate, your blood vessels, and your ability to perform. Before we dive in, make sure to hit the subscribe button and turn on the bell so you never miss another science-backed health tip designed to protect your energy, your circulation, and your vitality after 60. And if this message resonates with you, type 1 in the comments. If not, type 0. Your feedback helps me create content that truly supports you. Let's start with the good news, because not all leftovers are harmful. In fact, there are 3 specific foods that, when reheated the right way, can actually become more powerful for your health. These foods support steady energy, smoother digestion, and even better blood flow, all of which are critical for men over 60 who want to stay strong, sharp, and independent. Let's take a look at the first one. 1. Oatmeal. Oatmeal, gentle fuel for brain, gut, and erections. Gentle fuel for brain, gut, and erections. I'll never forget one of my patients, Gerald, a retired electrician in his late 60s. He came to see me frustrated by constant fatigue, unstable blood sugar, and what he quietly called inconsistent performance. His diet was fairly clean: no sodas, no fried food. But every morning, he ate a cold protein bar and skipped real breakfast. When I asked him why, he said, "Doctor, I just don't have the energy to cook in the morning." So, I gave him a simple, powerful change: oatmeal. But not just any oatmeal. Reheated oatmeal. It may surprise you, but when you cook oats, let them cool, and then reheat them later. The starches inside them change. They form what's known as resistant starch, a type of carbohydrate that doesn't spike blood sugar. Instead, it moves slowly through the digestive system, feeding the good bacteria in your gut and stabilizing glucose levels throughout the day. That one small adjustment made a huge difference for Gerald. Within 2 weeks, he had more stable energy, fewer crashes, and even reported improved confidence in the bedroom. In his own words, but the benefits don't stop there. Oatmeal is rich in beta-glucan, a type of soluble fiber shown to reduce LDL cholesterol and improve cardiovascular health, which is directly connected to blood flow where it matters most. It's gentle on the stomach, easy to digest, and brings warmth and comfort to the morning, especially when reheated with a little water or almond milk, maybe topped with cinnamon, blueberries, or a few chopped walnuts. For older men, this isn't just breakfast. It's quiet, steady medicine for your gut, your heart, your mind, and, yes, your erections. It's incredible what a small bowl of oats can do when you treat it with care. And yet, there's another food you may already have sitting in your fridge, one that, when reheated, delivers a completely different kind of healing. It soothes your joints, hydrates your cells, and supports your immune system in ways no multivitamin ever could. Let's talk about that next. Vegetable soup. 2. Vegetable soup. A hot defense for immunity, joints, and mood. A few years ago, I visited one of my longtime patients, Thomas, at his home. After a minor fall, he was in his early 70s, living alone since his wife passed, and trying his best to stay independent. I noticed he wasn't eating much. "I just don't feel like cooking anymore," he admitted. On his counter sat a half-finished pot of homemade vegetable soup, carrots, onions, greens, a few beans, quietly cooling. I asked if he planned to finish it. He shrugged and said maybe later if he still felt up to it. I told him something that surprised him. That very pot of soup, if stored properly and gently reheated the next day, could be one of the most nourishing things he could eat, not just for his body, but for his immune system, his joints, and even his state of mind. You see, when vegetable soup sits overnight, the cell walls in the vegetables begin to soften further, releasing phytonutrients and minerals that weren't fully available during the first cooking. When you reheat that soup the next day, slowly with care, the broth becomes richer, more concentrated, with antioxidants and healing compounds. For men like Thomas, whose immune systems aren't what they once were, this kind of warmth matters. The anti-inflammatory effects of garlic, turmeric, parsley all come alive again, with heat helping to soothe stiff joints and stimulate circulation. And, just as important, the act of eating warm soup brings comfort. It's grounding. It's familiar. And for many older men who live alone or feel disconnected, that sense of nourishment goes beyond nutrients. Thomas started reheating a small bowl every evening. Not only did his appetite return, but so did his sense of rhythm, something to look forward to at the end of the day. His energy lifted. He started walking more, smiling more. And yet even soup has its limits. On its own, it comforts. But pair it with the next food, something simple, humble, and often overlooked, and you create a foundation of strength that supports not just the heart, but every single step you take. Let me show you what that food is. Brown rice. 3. Brown rice. A simple grain for stronger legs and lower pressure. One of the first things I ask my patients is how steady do you feel during the day? And by that I don't just mean emotionally. I mean physically. Are your steps confident? Do your legs feel strong? Or is there a quiet weakness that you've just come to accept as part of aging? That question always reminds me of David, a 72-year-old retired mail carrier. He was struggling with unstable energy, tight calves, and low mood. His doctor had prescribed medication for blood pressure and neuropathy, but nothing seemed to make a real difference. We sat down, looked at his habits, and one stood out right away. He often skipped complex carbs, thinking they were bad for blood sugar, especially rice. I stopped eating rice years ago, he told me. Thought it was just sugar in disguise. But not all rice is created equal, and not all carbs are the enemy. I explained to David that brown rice, when cooked, cooled, and then reheated properly, actually becomes a slow-burning fuel thanks to the formation of resistant starch. This starch helps stabilize blood sugar, supports the gut microbiome, and releases energy gradually, avoiding the crashes that drain strength and leave legs feeling heavy or numb. Brown rice is also rich in magnesium, a mineral that plays a crucial role in muscle relaxation, nerve health, and blood pressure regulation, 3 pillars of aging well. Most men his age are magnesium deficient and don't even know it. David began reheating small portions of brown rice with steamed veggies or lentils just a few times a week. Within a month, he noticed fewer cramps, steadier steps, and improved stamina throughout the day. He even said his sleep improved, something he hadn't connected to diet before. Sometimes the answers aren't exotic. They're sitting right in front of us in simple foods we've forgotten how to respect. But while brown rice builds us up slowly and surely, not every reheated food does the same. In fact, some of the most familiar comforting dishes, the ones you've probably microwaved 100 times, may be silently working against your circulation, your digestion, and your manhood. Let's take a closer look at what those are and why you should never reheat them again. 1. Cooked mushrooms. Cooked mushrooms from healing to harmful. Not long ago, I had a patient named Leonard, 68 years old, widowed, proud of his independence. He'd been doing most of his own cooking since his wife passed, and one of his go-to meals was a mushroom stir-fry. Simple, quick, nutritious, or so he thought. One afternoon, he came in complaining of bloating, fatigue, and mild nausea that kept creeping up after lunch. No infection, no new medication, just a lingering sense that something wasn't sitting right. We looked at his routine, and one small detail stood out. Every few days, he'd reheat leftover mushrooms from the fridge, often sauteed in oil and tossed back in the microwave the next day. It sounds harmless. After all, mushrooms are a healthy food, right? But when mushrooms are cooked, cooled, and reheated, their proteins, which are already delicate, begin to break down and restructure in ways the body struggles to digest. In younger people, this might pass unnoticed. But in seniors where stomach acid is lower and gut sensitivity is higher, this subtle protein shift can lead to indigestion, bloating, and even inflammation that wears down the immune system over time. There's also a more serious risk: many overlook bacteria. Cooked mushrooms that sit too long, especially in butter or oil, can become breeding grounds for pathogens like Clostridium botulinum or Listeria. These don't always cause immediate symptoms, but for older adults, they can trigger low-grade neurological symptoms or worsen existing conditions like joint pain or nerve sensitivity. And what's worse, mushrooms lose most of their antioxidant power when reheated. So, you're not just risking discomfort, you're also stripping away the very benefits you hope to gain. When Leonard stopped reheating his mushrooms, choosing to cook fresh portions instead, his symptoms faded. His digestion improved. He even reported clearer thinking in the afternoons. Sometimes it's the foods we trust the most that betray us when we stop paying attention. And that's especially true of the next item on our list. A food that sits on almost every breakfast plate in America. It's packed with nutrients when fresh, but when you reheat it, the damage it can do to your heart, your hormones, and your digestion might surprise you. Eggs. 2. Eggs. A breakfast staple that turns against you. One of the most common pieces of advice I give older patients is to start the day with protein. And eggs for generations have been the gold standard. Rich in vitamins, easy to prepare, and deeply familiar. But familiarity can be misleading, especially when it comes to leftovers. I remember Walter, a 70-year-old Navy veteran who came to me complaining of midday sluggishness and digestive discomfort he couldn't quite explain. His mornings were structured: boiled eggs, a slice of toast, coffee, but during our conversation, he mentioned something that caught my attention. On most days, he didn't boil eggs fresh. He reheated them from a batch he made at the beginning of the week. And that's where the issue began. When eggs are freshly cooked, their proteins are structured for easy digestion and optimal nutrient absorption. But once cooled and reheated, especially in the microwave, those same proteins begin to harden and change shape, making them more difficult for the aging gut to process. This can lead to gas, bloating, and discomfort that feels unrelated to breakfast, but builds silently throughout the day. Even more concerning is what happens to the fats inside the egg, particularly in fried or scrambled versions. Reheating can oxidize the cholesterol, creating harmful byproducts that contribute to arterial inflammation, which is a key risk factor for erectile dysfunction, high blood pressure, and heart disease. In older men, Walter didn't need a new prescription. He just needed to make his eggs fresh. And he did. Within 2 weeks, his digestion calmed down, his energy lifted, and he told me with a grin that he felt less foggy after lunch. What we often consider healthy becomes harmful when we change how we handle it. And while eggs are best enjoyed right after cooking, the next food is one we trust even more, a staple of family dinners and comfort food everywhere. But when you reheat it, you may be feeding your body something that disrupts your blood sugar, stiffens your joints, and weakens your circulation all at once. Let's take a closer look. 3. White potatoes. Potatoes. The soft comfort that betrays you. When I was growing up, Sunday dinners were never complete without mashed potatoes on the table. They were warm, familiar, and comforting, a food that made you feel cared for. Many of my older patients still hold on to that same connection. I remember one man in particular, Harold, age 74, who told me, "Doctor, I can give up soda, sugar, even meat, but don't take away my potatoes." And I understood. They're part of our culture, our memories, our homes. But what Harold didn't realize, and what so many seniors don't, is that white potatoes, when reheated, change in ways that can quietly sabotage your health. Freshly cooked white potatoes are already high on the glycemic index, meaning they turn to sugar quickly in the body. But when they're cooled and then reheated, especially with butter or oil, their starches become even more damaging. This process increases insulin resistance, spikes blood sugar, and fuels inflammation that can affect your joints, your blood vessels, and even the tiny nerves in your legs and feet. For men dealing with type 2 diabetes, circulation problems, or numbness in the lower body, this can be a dangerous cycle. Harold had no idea that the tingling in his feet and the heavy fatigue he felt after lunch were connected to the leftover potatoes he kept reheating. Even more concerning is that many older adults reheat potatoes in plastic containers, unknowingly exposing themselves to harmful chemicals like BPA, substances that disrupt hormone balance and impact heart and prostate health over time. Once Harold switched to sweet potatoes and started making fresh batches instead of reheating old ones, his energy started to return, his blood sugar readings improved, and the numbness in his legs began to ease. Sometimes the smallest changes have the biggest ripple effect. And now, as we step back and reflect on these everyday foods that so easily end up in our microwaves, there's one final truth we need to confront. Not everything in your fridge deserves a second chance. In fact, there's one popular comfort food that seems completely innocent, but might be quietly draining your strength, dulling your focus, and aging your body with every reheated bite. Let's bring it all together. Conclusion. The truth about reheating and senior health. When it comes to aging well, it's never just about what you eat. It's also about how you prepare it, how your body responds to it, and how aware you are of the little decisions that quietly shape your future. I've worked with thousands of men over 60, and I've learned that most health issues don't start with something dramatic. They begin in the small everyday habits, like what we decide to reheat for lunch or what we toss in the microwave without thinking. We've seen that some foods like oatmeal, vegetable soup, and brown rice can actually become more healing when reheated correctly. They support gut health, regulate blood sugar, and give you the steady energy and circulation your body craves in this chapter of life. But we've also uncovered the hidden dangers in reheating others. Mushrooms, eggs, white potatoes, foods that can inflame your joints, spike your blood sugar, dull your focus, and even weaken your erections over time. I've seen men reclaim their vitality not through fad diets or pills, but by paying closer attention to these quiet patterns, swapping what's convenient for what's truly supportive. I think of Harold and Walter and so many others who made just one or two small changes, and suddenly they weren't just eating differently, they were living differently. They stood taller. They had more energy. They felt like themselves again. So the next time you reach into the fridge, remember, not everything deserves to be reheated. Not every food deserves a second chance. But you do. You deserve a second chance at strength, clarity, confidence, and connection. And it starts with how you care for your body, one warm, thoughtful meal at a time. If this video helped you rethink the way you approach your meals and your health, please take a moment to like this video, share it with someone you care about, and leave a comment below. I read everyone. Your feedback helps me create better content just for you. And if you'd like to support this mission to empower more seniors with science-backed natural health advice, consider clicking the donate link below. Every contribution helps us reach more people with more truth and more care. Thank you for being part of this journey towards stronger, healthier living after 60.